Surprisingly good. Considering the impact and the magnitude of that event, I feel very, very grateful to be where I'm at today. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if anyone follows me on social media here, but Isaiah 41 was the devotional that I'd posted Sunday morning before getting in the car, and the verse said, "Fear not, for I'm with you." And I think that that was a timely verse for the day because as I went flying through the air, I was actually not that afraid. I was waiting for the piercing of some debris or something, and it just didn't come. So, huge shout out to the AMR safety team, IndyCar Medical. I mean, they were on top of the car before I was even stopped, I think. So, yeah, very, very grateful for all their support and just the the post event things that we've been going through to make sure that I'm all right. So we're cleared for Toronto, which is awesome and exciting, and it's a bit surprising considering, like I said, the magnitude of that impact. So very, very grateful. I could see that Rossi was slowing. I didn't know to what extent, and I looked up going into turn one there just to see where he was located. And I think it was about three-quarters of the way through the turn. I could see the closing rate. And it was just very, very big. I mean, the closing rate was just so massive. And uh, it's kind of like the worst case scenario when you're exiting a turn at that speed with that closing rate and not knowing what other drivers thinking or experiencing. So, I mean, I wish I could have hit a reset button like it was on a simulator and started over again, but I'm sure he'd be thinking the same thing now. So I'm very grateful that we're both, everyone involved. I mean, there was four cars that were pretty much totaled in that accident. So the fact that we're all safe and sound and ready to go for Toronto is pretty impressive. I did a quick self check and I had the wind knocked out of me because the belts did their job. Everything worked as it was supposed to. I didn't have any cuts or anything abnormal. I had some bruises on my hips from the lap belts working as they should have. And I was expecting to be a lot worse. But when they righted me up out of the car and pulled me out, I got lightheaded and kind of, sit out of bed too quickly in the morning sometimes. You get that lightheaded and see stars a little bit. It was like that, but just super severe. And I passed out for I don't know how long. It was pretty quick. And when I came to, I told them, I was like, I'm not doing too well. They're like, yeah, we know. But they immediately laid me down on the stretcher. And that was just a precautionary of like, okay, we wanted to make sure that it's not just dehydration. It's not just turning, 248 laps left and getting dizzy from that. So once I was down on the stretcher, I felt great. I was seeing clearly. They hooked me up to an IV and like immediately I could feel the energy come back and I was ready to go. So the life flight out was just to get a CT scan to make sure everything was going on. That it wasn't just the adrenaline of the moment that I wasn't having pain from. But honestly, the worst injury I got was on my finger. I touched the halo getting out of the car, and it turns out when you take titanium and scrape it across the ground for a few hundred feet, it gets hot. As I was up in the air, I could see the top of the catch fence kind of almost at my level. And at that moment, I realized that I was in some trouble there. And I still had my hands on the steering wheel at that point, just bracing myself. And I had enough time in the air where it kind of went slow motion. I let go, grabbed onto my harnesses to hold on so I wasn't like getting hurt by the wheel flying around or anything. And on the way down, I had time to think about, accidents that I've seen in recent history of guys where they've gone flying through the air like that. Think about Hinchcliffe, think about Dixon at Speedway, just the impact of those. And even like Simon Pagenaud last year, I mean, we got to see his wreck, and I think it was around 112 Gs was that impact. Now I was at 109 Gs, and so the fact of the matter is that I should be more hurt than I am, and I don't know why I'm okay as I am. I'm very thankful, and I'm giving the glory to God for that, and thanking the crew that was there to pick me up out of the car because everything did its job. Everyone did their job as they were supposed to. And when I came down and felt that impact and it knocked the wind out of me, I didn't feel any of that piercing through my legs or any sort of damage there. It was just like a couple light bruises of the bulkhead hit my knees and kind of the skidding on the ground. I was like very, very surprised that I was as okay as I was. When I was skidding to a stop, my spotter was on the radio and he said, "You're almost stopped. You're almost stopped. All right, they're there." And it was literally like as soon as I came to a rest, there was someone ducking under the halo to say, "Hey, dude, are you good? Like, what's hurting? Can you breathe?" And I'm going to be honest, the adrenaline was going at that point, so I probably didn't handle that situation as good as I'd like to. I was a little upset. I was like, "Of course I'm hurt. Like, did you just see what happened to me?" And like, "Can you breathe?" "Yes, I can breathe, but it's not very good. I'm hanging upside down in an Indy car." So when they flipped me back over, and I had I don't know how many guys around there. I think there was 10 plus uh, members of the crew just standing around supporting me. Like when I passed out, I could feel two guys holding onto my arms, two guys behind me, people holding my legs. I mean, they were fully in support of me, and I was fully reliant on them in that moment. And they did everything they could to make me safe, and it shows. There's no doubt in my mind the aero screen saved a lot of damage to my head and to who knows what else, that would have happened to me in that incident. But yeah, the halo was ground down quite a bit. The titanium that I burnt my finger on obviously got pretty hot from grinding on the surface. I haven't seen my helmet yet, but from the people that have looked at it and have inspected it, there's no visible issues with the helmet. So it's pretty impressive because that means that the cockpit did its job. Everything in there took the impact rather than me taking the impact. So yeah, the aero screen was severely damaged, um, but that's because it worked as it was supposed to. I mean, when you look at the way that I made the impact and the angle that I was able to kind of get the car going, I mean, we're doing 170, 180 miles an hour on that track. And you do anything at that speed, it's going to get lift off in some way, shape, or form in my mind. And the car came down very well. I mean, I didn't take off left, right, or anything into the catch fence, which I'm very grateful for. Um, so I wouldn't change a thing about this car. I think that it's as safe as it's ever been. And I think that IndyCar's done a great job of looking at and analyzing past crashes and adapting to make the cars even stronger and better for the future. And I'm sure they'll do the same here. I'm sure there might be a little thing here or there that they can find, but from my perspective, everything worked as it should have, and I'm safe because of that. I think that we underestimate the mental side of racing a lot of times because as athletes, we want to just turn into robots and switch on to the next game and just forget what we went through. But it's not that easy sometimes. But honestly, I'm doing very well. I had a conversation right before the race weekend talking about kind of how my faith takes away the fear of dying in an accident or something like that. But you don't ever think about getting hurt that bad. And so I think the fear that I didn't feel that I should have felt was very surprising. And I think that just comes from having that foundation of faith that I stand on and what I rely on during my daily life. And so that's kind of what I've been leaning on as I recover from this. It's just like trying to find um, gratitude in the fact that I am as good as I am as far as health goes, and that mentally I have a chance to recover very quickly heading to Toronto. And I have a great group around me, and they support me well. And so having them speak into my life after an accident like that has been very important. I feel like I've done my fair share of looking back at the weekend's events, and it's as simple as a short memory, but also I think gratitude is something that is overlooked a lot of times in these instances of just looking at the things that went right leading up to that event and during that event. And also just being thankful. Like I feel like God protected me in that instance, and having the ability to get back in the car this next weekend. I'm not doing it from a place of fear. I'm doing it from a place of gratitude and thankfulness and just like joy that I get to be driving a car again. Because it is a scary incident and you don't know what's going to happen while you're in that moment. It's terrifying for the sense of like you don't know what your future holds. And so when I turn my future over to someone, which is, where my faith comes in, it allows me to move on much quicker than I think I would otherwise.